Around 1325 CE, in the shallow lakes of the Valley of Mexico, farmers were doing something that no agricultural system in Europe had figured out yet. They were building land. Rectangular plots, staked out in the lake bed, layered with mud and aquatic vegetation, and organic matter dredged from the canal floors. The water in the canals rose through capillary action directly to the plant roots. No irrigation infrastructure, no pumps. The system watered itself. These were the Chinampas. The Spanish, when they arrived in 1521, called them floating gardens. They weren't floating, but the name stuck the way names do when the people doing the describing don't entirely understand what they're seeing. What the Spanish witnessed were beds producing up to 7 harvests per year. 7. From the same plot of ground: maize, beans, squash, tomatoes, and chili peppers, running in staggered cycles so that something was always ready, always coming in. The Aztec population at its height numbered in the millions. The Chinampa system fed them. A researcher at Montana State University, Roland Ebel, published findings describing Chinampas as one of the most intensive and prolific food production systems ever developed. His words: highly sustainable, capable of near-continuous cultivation, with a microclimate favorable to a wide range of crops. This wasn't primitive. This was, by any measure of output per square foot, sophisticated beyond what most modern backyard gardeners attempt. The Spanish conquest ended it, not because it failed, because the people running it were removed from the land. The knowledge didn't disappear. It just stopped being funded. Now, let's slow down here. Because before we talk about what this system looks like in a modern American backyard, you need to understand what happened between 1521 and your county extension office telling you to plant tomatoes 36 inches apart in rows. In 1971, Nixon's Secretary of Agriculture, Earl Butz, took over the USDA. His policy was not subtle. Get big or get out. His words, repeated publicly, aimed at American family farmers. Plant fence row to fence row, grow corn, grow soy, scale or die. It worked, in the sense that it did exactly what it intended. Small farms collapsed by the tens of thousands. By the 1980s, the farm crisis was generational. Bankruptcies, debt, families off the land. What replaced them were large commodity operations averaging $400 to $600 per acre in annual revenue. The extension offices, the land-grant universities, the USDA research budget, all of it oriented toward that model, toward scale, toward inputs, toward machinery, not a conspiracy, just the ordinary math of institutional funding. If Monsanto and Cargill are your primary agricultural partners, your research agenda reflects that. What got left behind? What stopped being taught, stopped being funded, stopped appearing in the extension pamphlets, was the knowledge that a very small, very intensively managed bed of ground could produce income that made a commodity corn farmer's per acre number look like a mistake. Jean-Martin Fortier is a farmer in Quebec. Real person, look him up. His farm, Les Jardins de la Grelinette, runs 1.5 cultivated acres using hand tools, permanent raised beds, no tractor, and biological soil management. His documented gross revenue, up to $150,000 per year. And his operating margin documented approximately 50%. Curtis Stone, another real grower, Green City Acres in Kelowna, British Columbia, runs 1/3 of an acre and has documented $75,000 to $110,000 in gross annual sales. His crops: salad greens, microgreens, cherry tomatoes, herbs. His stated principle, repeated across his published work: the smaller you go, the more profitable you become per square foot. Two Roots Farm in Colorado followed Fortier's model on half an acre and documented approximately $75,000 gross in their first full year. None of these are outliers. They are the documented ceiling of a system that American agricultural policy spent 50 years not talking about. The per square foot math, when you run it on a single 30-inch by 100-foot bed, which is the standard intensive market bed, works out to numbers that don't fit the conventional farming story. Here is the system. 3 components, the soil decision. Most people treat soil like dirt. It isn't. Fortier's farm elevated soil organic matter from 3% to 12% through consistent compost application on permanent beds. That number matters because organic matter is the infrastructure. It's what holds water. It's what feeds the microbial networks that make nutrients available to roots. It's what keeps the bed productive across multiple harvests instead of crashing after one. The Aztec Chinampas understood this intuitively. They dredged nutrient-rich canal sludge onto their beds continuously. The mechanism is different. The principle is identical. You are not growing plants. Why? You are maintaining a biological system, and the plants are what it produces. What most people get wrong, they buy bagged soil, fill a raised bed, plant immediately, and wonder why the second season underperforms. The bed has no biology yet, no microbial community, no earthworm population. It hasn't been built. What you actually do? Start the compost pile before you build the bed. By the time the bed is ready, you have something to put in it that's alive. The bed you build in March gets compost from material you started in October. The crop decision. Not all crops are equal per square foot. This is the calculation that changes everything, and it's the one that institutional agriculture never ran for small-scale growers. Curtis Stone's framework. Assess days to maturity first. Anything over 60 days occupies your bed longer per dollar of output. Salad greens, mesclun mix, arugula, baby spinach mature in 25 to 40 days and can be cut and regrown multiple times from the same root system. One 30-inch bed, managed for continuous production, can yield 4 to 6 cuts per season before replanting. At a farmer's market price of $25 to $40 per pound for mixed salad greens, which is the documented retail range across most American markets, a single well-managed bed is not a hobby. It's a revenue line. Fortier's farm runs 35 beds of mesclun out of 160 total, the highest concentration of any single crop, not because he likes salad, but because when he calculated revenue per bed relative to time the bed was occupied, mesclun was consistently at the top. Microgreens are the extreme version of this logic. He's 7 to 14 days from seed to harvest, higher price per pound than almost any other product. And they can be grown indoors, on shelves, meaning the limiting factor isn't land, it's trays and light. The market decision. Where you sell matters more than what you grow. 3 channels. Every serious micro operation runs at least 2. The highest volume channel is the farmer's market. Predictable foot traffic, cash transactions, relationship building with repeat customers. The margin is retail. The cost is your Saturday morning. The highest margin channel is restaurants. Chefs pay premium for consistent local specialty product. Baby greens, edible flowers, specialty herbs they can't get reliably from a distributor. Curtis Stone built his operation on restaurant relationships. The conversation is different. You're not selling produce. You're solving a sourcing problem. The most predictable channel is the CSA, Community-Supported Agriculture. Customers pay up front, weekly or seasonally, for a share of what you grow. You know your revenue before you plant. The farmer's market is speculation. The CSA is a contract. Run all 3 eventually. Start with 1. Here is the actual sequence. Weeks 1 through 4. Build the bed. Permanent frame, 30 inches wide. Narrow enough to reach the center from either side without stepping in. Length is your preference. 8 to 12 feet is manageable for a starter. Fill with amended soil. compost, existing topsoil, organic matter. No tiller, no compaction. Weeks 5 through 8. Plant your first crop. Salad greens for a starter. Broadcast sow, thin to appropriate spacing. Water consistently. The bed will look sparse for the first 10 days. Week 9. It won't look sparse anymore. The first time you cut a full tray of greens from a bed you built yourself. That moment is hard to explain to anyone who hasn't done it. Not dramatic. Just clear. Like a calculation that finally balances. Weeks 10 through 16. Second and third cuts from the same root system. Begin starting a second succession in a container to transplant when this planting exhausts. By the end of the first season, you understand the rhythm. The second season, you run it faster. The economics, honestly. Starter scale. One serious bed, one farmer's market Saturday per week. Documented operations at this level report $200 to $400 in weekly gross revenue at peak season. That's $10 to $20 per square foot annually on a productive bed. Not projections. In documented range, serious scale, 4 to 8 beds, 2 sales channels. Operations at this configuration report $1,500 to $3,000 monthly gross revenue. The $2,000 per month figure this video is built around sits comfortably in that range for a grower in their second or third season with the right crops and one restaurant account. Full operation, the 40A and stone tier. Multiple beds across a fraction of an acre. 3 sales channels running, CSA established. Documented gross, $75,000 to $150,000 annually. None of these are guarantees. All of them are documented. Most guides stop before this part. 3 things they don't tell you. First, the labor in year 1 is real. Intensive growing is not passive income. You will spend 10 to 20 hours a week on a serious 4-bed operation during peak season. The system gets more efficient as your soil matures and your rhythm establishes, but go in knowing this. Second, markets take seasons to build. Your first farmer's market Saturday, you will not sell out. Your third, you might. Your 10th, you'll have regulars who come back specifically for what you grow. The restaurant relationship takes 3 conversations and 1 free sample box. Budget a season for market building before you expect predictable revenue. Third, gross is not net. Seed costs, compost inputs, market fees, any infrastructure, all of it comes out. Well-run micro operations document 40 to 55% net margins after expenses. The honest number is still good. Go in with the honest number. 3 advantages nobody mentions. Salad greens and specialty produce are recession-resistant at the local level. When grocery budgets tighten, the farmer's market shopper who values local food doesn't disappear. She buys more selectively, but she keeps coming. Your $6 bag of baby arugula competes against a $5 plastic container of industrial product that was packed 10 days ago. That is not a difficult sale. Your primary input is compost, and compost is largely free. Kitchen scraps, yard material, what the soil returns to itself. The commodity farmer's input cost, seed, fertilizer, chemical inputs, fuel, rises with inflation. Yours doesn't. And the regulatory environment for direct market produce in most American states is the simplest category in food law. You are selling fresh vegetables. Start there. Back to the Valley of Mexico for a moment. The Chinampas had a principle embedded in their system that agricultural scientists have only recently begun to articulate formally. They didn't fight the ecosystem. They extended it. The canal fed the bed. The bed fed the canal back with roots and organic runoff. The fish fed on the organic material. The farmer fed on the fish and the vegetables. Nothing left the system that didn't come back to it. What you are building in a backyard raised bed is smaller in scale. Not smaller in principle, 10 years from now, the commodity system your neighbors depend on will still be producing $500 an acre corn that gets turned into processed food that costs more every year. The supply chain will still be long. The weather events will still be unpredictable. The grocery store shelves will still have their bad weeks. On a January morning, when the ground is frozen and the light comes in flat and gray, you will go to a shelf in a cool corner of your house and pull out what you put up from last summer. Dried herbs, canned tomatoes, frozen greens, maybe something fermenting quietly in a jar on the counter. Your household food bill will be what it is, but a portion of it won't exist because you grew it, and another portion won't exist because you sold enough in season to cover it. That is not a dramatic freedom. You won't feel like you've beaten anything. You'll just notice on a Tuesday that you're less anxious than you used to be about a particular category of things. Not the loud kind of freedom, the quiet kind, the kind that builds in soil, one season at a time, and compounds. The question isn't whether this system works. The documented operations answer that. The question is whether you start this season, or spend another one waiting for a better time that grows the same grass it grew last year. Subscribe. The next system is coming.